No. I was just testing my voice.
All right. Oh, now you can start. Sorry.
Let us sing an ode, a befitting ode to the African warrior queen. My role model, my past, my present, and my future. Forgotten by this whitewashed history we are living, erased from the unquestioning mind by centuries of white is right and might is white. Shh. Listen to the rivers and the mountains of Africa shout her out. Amanirenas, Shanageto, Amanishageto, Mantadisi, Amina of Zazau, Saronia the panther queen of the Azna people, Ngola Kilwanje, Njingambande of Ambundu people, of Ndongo and later Matamba, Mbuya Neanda Wabashona, the Charo Nyagasigana who led the resistance against the British devil invaders in the first Chimurenga. Shh. Quiet, quiet. Listen. The wind is angry, cursing, beating its chest, buzzing, pulsating, vibrating, rustling the leaves, crackling, susurrating. The wind is bringing the forest back to life. The forest is bringing Mbuya Nehanda back to life. Why her? I ask the haunting blowing wind, catching my breath after it hits me hard on my face. You ask, answers the leaves like a bellowing audience between me and the wind. How dare you? Shout the leaves at me. You and your generation, how dare you? I start to shiver and struggle even more to catch my breath. How dare you forget an African warrior queen who humbled British soldiers and men at war, the great spirit of Zvikiro and Mondoro, who, when captured by the enemy in 1897, tried and found guilty by the authority of the British High Commissioner for South Africa, Alfred Milner. Warrior Queen Mbuya Nehanda Nyagasigana did not shiver. She did not grovel. She did not diminish in stature or bravery. She chose death by hanging rather than convert to Christianity and revoke her great heritage. She did not choose to curse her culture, declare her ancestors demonic. Yes, death by hanging is what she chose. And before the noose tightened around her neck, she defiantly told the British Red Devils, Mafupa angu achamuka, my bones will surely rise again. They will rise and rise and rise. And they surely rose in the second Chimurenga in the 1960s and 70s. The nationalist liberation heroes who fought the Red Devils of the time under Ian Smith were possessed by Nehanda, the great spirit of Svikiro and Mondoro. For no liberation struggle of the South drew as manifold women and girls as did the struggles of Zapu and Sanu in the then Rhodesia. Zimbabwe African People's Union and Zimbabwe African National Union, I can hear the wind hum another tune, telling stories of exploits and victories long gone, of a woman's voice commanding action, action against the greedy Arab encroaching on our territory, for exploitation, for Arabization, for Islamization. Ah, it's Dahia al-Kahina of the Bebe people. She led armies to war against the Arabs in the Ores Mountains. She scored many victories and the Arabs only won after her death. Yes, only after her death. Ah, it's the leaves again. This time incredibly softer. Sit, they command me. Now that you are ready to know more about the African warrior queen and less about the much publicized ceremonial queens like Victoria or Elizabeth, take a pen. Write. Open your mind and imprint this on your long-term memory. Don't ever forget to remember it. This is about warrior Queen Saronia, the panther queen of the Azna people. She defended her nation from the many French invasions. She eluded both capture and assassination. Finally, when the French overran the Azna and captured her royal palace, she locked herself in the remote corner of the palace, and in full view, a panther came out and strode off merrily into the forest. Are you listening? No, she didn't. Ah, the wind retorts back at me. Yes, she did. No, she didn't. Yes, she did. But that's unscientific. Whose science? The wind asks me. It's superstition. I try and argue back. Whose superstition? The wind asks me. If in the culture of those to whom the word superstition belongs, there never was a great warrior queen in the stature of Saronia, a warrior queen so attuned spiritually that she was one with nature, one who could turn into nature and nature turn into her, then it is superstition to them, to the Azna, and to every other African. It's reality. It's truth. It's a majestic heritage. Ever thought about that? But the rustle of the leaves is dying down. The wind is blowing away. Yet I want more tales of the African warrior queen. Because I checked, these tales are not in the Oxford books. I tried the Harvard department. I only found Marie Antoinette, Theodora, Matilda. Oh, I thought, let me try University of Witwatersrand, UCT, Rhodes. After all, they're all Ivy League universities and they're supposed to be providing first-class education. Even better, let me try ours, Limpopo, Zululand, Forte, Transkei. Nothing. In Soweto, they say Dololo. Nix. Nothing. It's the same tales of Marie Antoinette, Theodora, Elizabeth, Mary Magdalene. So, wind, wait, don't go yet. Leaves, rustle once again. Tell me tales of battles fought and won, of the pride of the African warrior woman. Better, I want to hear all her feats. I want to hear how she defeated wars of every form in colonialism and against colonialism. Before her, I want to know what was. Tell me of her tales before she was bastardized into a half-baked Matilda.
That was powerful. That was powerful, Mama Khanyisile. Welcome, Nsiki Oladele, my brother. Karibu, everyone. Again, the name is Nduku, host on Kumbukeni. I'm joined by my brother Oladele today and Nsiki of Moya. I will let them introduce themselves and then we can continue. Very beautiful, Mama Khanyisile. And you look beautiful today.
Togos.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay, guys, my name, as always, is Oladele Amodosumo, the son of Dosumo, the son of the soul, the co-founder of Emerging Kebulan. And today, as always, we're here to deconstruct the narratives that was sold to us. We're here to change the narratives, and we basically are fundraising for our sister's book, UBULUNGISA, Deconstructing Gender in African Spirituality, the untold story of the African warrior woman. Please join us. This is a fundraising event. We want everybody to participate, and we need all our committees to be part of this. And thank you, Insiki, for joining us from Moya. If you want to introduce yourself, my sister.
Good evening, good morning, everybody. Afternoon. My name is Nziki Mazwai. I'm the founder of Moya Podcast, and it's a great privilege to be hosting this program today where we are raising funds so that Mam Kanye can publish her book. And if our host can please let us know the channels to use to raise that money and keep telling us throughout the show. My video will be off tonight, but I'm definitely here. And thank you to everybody for joining. And thank you for having me also.
Thank you very much, my sister. I'm Khanyisile. If you want to introduce yourself, we know who you are.
Should I? I don't think so.
Mama Khanyisile does not like this part. I think her poem was enough introduction, but you can go ahead, Mama Khanyisile.
Wow. I think let me take another angle. My name is Khanyisile. I gave myself that name. That was my nom de guerre in Portuguese. It was my combat name. So I was a guerrilla during our struggle against apartheid. So I was given that name in Angola as a combatant of Mkhonto weSizwe. I left South Africa under 2 colonial names that I even dare to tell people, but I'll tell them anyway in this podcast, so you can see the madness that we can dwindle to as Africans. I had 3 names because 2 were, one of them was a double barrel, Maria Goretti. Imagine. And apparently Goretti is a surname to Maria. That's like naming your child Oludele Dosunmo and then give them another name, and they're not even Yoruba or Nigerian or even African. My second name was Benedicta. I think when we came back in 94, I got so used to being called Khanyisile, a name with a meaning, which means the one who has brought light, that I knew for sure I'm not going back to those names. Luckily, South Africa is a country that does allow you to do those alterations. So I took both names out of my ID and I gave myself the name Khanyisile. So I think I'll take that angle as an introduction. And thank both of you for having me and Nsigi here.
Yes.
We thank you. It's a pleasure, man. What else can I say? We love you, sis. You know that.
Yes. It's truly in the way of Ubuntu. We are feeding from you. You are feeding from us. We are all helping nurture each other's well-being, right? We have yearned to get information about who we are, about our African spirituality. We have been looking and asking, and you have sat down, taken the time to do the research, gone as you told in your poem, listened to the wind confronting you and holding you accountable, which is the ancestors. For those of you who don't know who is in the wind speaking, reaching out to you to tell them, and specifically so the African women, warrior women, reaching out to you to tell you, you need to tell our story. So actually that's a great place to start, because that place, as you were reading that, I got really emotional because these are our ancestors who are sitting and wondering, why have we, their descendants, forgotten them, right? They're unsettled. And they are coming through, and as you said, it was a strong wind. It wasn't just it gets gentle as you start to listen, but at first it's a strong wind. So let's talk about that process, how you are sitting and how the wind came to tell you and to nudge you to write the story of our African warrior women.
I think every part of your life, negative in our analysis at the time, or positive in our analysis at the time, good or bad, enjoyable or painful, every facet of your life is crucial. And you should not, looking for the English word, do not distance yourself from parts of your life that you deem unenjoyable or painful, because all of it comes together to make you who you are. So growing up under apartheid, I think painful as it was, made me wonder about blackness, because unlike the two of you, I am of the generation, I can say, that lived colonialism. That generation is dying in the whole of Africa, because if you look at Ghana, where I am right now, classical colonialism ended in 57. So if I was born in Ghana, born in 62, I would have grown up under a society that's so-called free. So yeah, living under apartheid with whiteness smacking your face all the time, makes you wonder, who am I? Is there anything good about my people? Okay, I see white supremacy. I see that white is right and white is might. But has it always been like this? You start tracing, like, I know I wrote my first poems when I was 14. I wish I had kept them, because I went to exile and I don't know what happened to them in my family home. I wish I had kept them, but it's been a journey of maturity to come to the place where I am now, to understand that, look, at that time, yes, I wrote and I was in debate and I was known as a person that, loves and recites poetry, but I was still a Christian. So my third eye was not as open. So I believe I could only write the depth that I'm writing now because of the conviction of being in African spirituality. So my spirit, my soul, and my body are aligned and in sync. Because, like, take the Saronia story, uh, which is what I present in the poem, actually. As a raised Catholic and became born again on my own at 17 in a boarding school outside my family belief system, I would have read the story of Saronia and just concluded, okay, this is one of the African fictions. It's one of the African mythologies. The funny thing is, in the same vein as a Catholic, I would not have questioned the virgin birth of Mary as a mythology. I took that as a fact. But I would have fought against the Black Panther Queen. I would have fought against Saronia, shape shifting into a panther. And at the point where I would have accepted it, I would have demonized it as evil, as Satanism. So yes, I think the overriding line, I gave a long explanation, I'm sorry. The overriding line of that journey is finding African spirituality gave me the depth of knowledge about my people. It also opened my paradigm about my people.
I was just, Ndoko, you were just reading my mind. I was asking about the tears and you posted it straight on the private chat, man. So
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. I was trying to figure out how I'm going to share them with you. Let me then talk about the first one. So, this is how we're going to do it, just like we did last time. Mama Khanyisile is going to be addressing different questions. Please share them in the chat. If you have questions, if you're struggling, because part of the journey for me, and I know my brother Oladele, because we've spoken, and others, is when you start sitting with this knowledge, because we've been raised Christian, right? And devout Christian. I was raised Catholic, where I come from, the village, right, where I come from in the rural area, was run by Irish priests, white Irish priests. And my family is very devout Catholic, where I would be yelled at if I didn't go to church. So Now I'm learning this, and it's not only hearing it from others. It started with a personal journey where I was questioning, why are things the way they are? As I said to all of you in our last one and in previous sessions, I started questioning as a woman, why am I an inferior when I am the one creating life, right? So part of the journey is that you are truly going to face fear, the fear of, I've known this all my life and you're telling me it's a lie. Now I need to know this. You're telling me no heaven, there's no hell. So please, if you're encountering that struggle, share in the chat so that we can have the conversation, because it is better to struggle with your brothers and sisters than to struggle alone. It's a lonely journey. It gets even depressing. I'm telling you, these are emotions I've gone through. You will be depressed. So if you're struggling, share in the chat and we can have the conversation. Brother Oladile, I think we should go with the question that, but yes, as we're speaking about the tears, shared in the chat is and I shared also Mama Khanyisile's website. You can go to the website, you can learn about her there. The website is still under construction, so we're still beautifying it, but it's functional enough for you to start pre-purchasing the book. The questions and challenges we've faced is people think that we are actually delivering the books now. No, you are supporting the publishing of the book. We are currently in the stage of editing the book, editing and indexing. And so it has not been published yet. The funds that you send through pre-purchasing are going to help with the publishing of the book. So we are doing this the reverse way. Usually the author goes to a publishing company. The publishing company takes a percentage of the rights of the book because of costs of publishing. And then the author they start selling the book, and that's when the author starts making the money and all that. No, we're now making the money so that the money can support the publishing and hopefully continue to make the money. So that's what you're doing. And this is in the spirit of Ubuntu. Coming together community. Mama Khanyisile.
So that we can own the rights.
So that we can
own the material and the wisdom.
So that we can own the rights. And I'm going to quickly tell a quick story before we go to bronze tier. The Dansiki, when you can come back so that we can have your beautiful face with us too. I was going to say when Siki was here before I tell the story of the whole publishing process, I always, and it's more so now that I'm more grounded in who we are, now that I'm reclaiming who I am, and unabashedly so. I've been criticized. I've lost friends. I have family members who don't call me.
Oh yeah.
Because people consider me a troublemaker. People don't want to be in rooms with me because they're uncomfortable about the things I talk about. So they'd rather not have me in those rooms or call me. But it is so heartwarming to be in a room like this with my brother and my sisters, to see the beauty in us, to see the color in us. Like, there's nothing boring about who we are. This is not a gray suit, black. Let's talk about that for a quick minute before I go into before I go into the publishing journey. Let's quickly talk about how it feels to be African. Let's quickly talk about that.
Who wants to go first? Nziki, go. Nziki, we'll let you go first.
You're muted.
Please, can one of you guys go first?
Okay. Oladile.
Okay. What does it feel like to be African?
I'm wondering.
It's a journey. It's been a journey. I never used to be African. I used to be European. I used to be one of those coconuts. It's been years, and at one point I tell people I didn't have a Nigerian passport because I didn't want to go back to Nigeria.
Are you serious?
Seriously.
And now you don't want to leave Nigeria when we are there.
Oh, my sister. At some point in my life, I never had a Nigerian passport. All I had was a British passport. I basically didn't see myself in Africa. And as I've grown and I've learned, and I'm just telling my story here. As I've grown, I've learned, and you're very inquisitive about life and why things are not working, why things are not, why did that we as African people are always the bottom of the pot of every joke there is. Why are we the way we are? and you're curious, you wanna learn, you wanna know why things, and I've become very inquisitive as to why we are where we are, and this is basically my journey. And as I start to dig and dig and dig, and I've just realized that we've been sold a lie.
Yeah.
So this is the bottom line. I was saying this to somebody today, and this is what I said: everything that the Caucasians, that the colonizers have sold to us about ourselves, has been lies. So that's basically how I look think. So from that basis, I can build myself up, knowing that everything that they told me in terms of economics, in terms of my history, in terms of everything will follow is a lie. Education is a lie. They've done nothing. They've done nothing that's going to empower us. As I've gone through that journey, I've just realized, you know what, let me just keep digging. History, everything, education, everything was just upside down. And then as I kept digging, yeah, go on.
Sorry, just sorry to jump into your mouth there. You know, what I think is one of the greatest travesties about everything that has happened to us is the impact of education and colonialism on the Black psyche. Because what it's done is that those people who went to good schools or went to schools with white people have got a superiority complex. And until we have solutions for that feeling that I'm a better Black, I'm better than others, until we have solutions for that situation, then we've got a long way to go. I mean, if you look at the elections, even now, when MK, the South African elections, when MK was coming in, the people who were resistant to it were a lot the Blacks who speak good English and the educated ones and the ones who look down on this standard 2 president who couldn't even speak English properly. You know, so for me, I think that is the big issue that really needs to be addressed, the superiority complex of the so-called clever Blacks.
Yeah.
So Ntsiki, that's why in the poem I juxtapose the institutions in South Africa, and it's the same in all other African countries. I mean, I've done 40 now, African countries. See, that's why I say let's try VETS, let's try roads, let's try UCT to see if we will get the story of the African warrior queen, because those are deemed Ivy League, meaning they don't even depend on government for funding, because Ivy League is an international institution that is funded by the very people who oppress us, the very people who own these means of education, the very people who are miseducating us, who are providing us with a health industry, not a health system. So I juxtapose that against Ntsiki knows, you know, if they say, where did you go to university? Oh, I went to University of Zulu. Okay, what were you doing there? I mean, if you get really brave ones, they even ask you, what were you doing there? You come from Soweto, you left VETS. Why didn't you go to VETS? And here's the sad thing, non-South African Africans, when they talk to me to tell me they went to VETS or with a certain level of respect. And I'm just like, no, I have no respect for those institutions as a South African. What business do you have giving them the classism that they are meant to be providing in society? So yeah, Ntsiki, I think you hit the nail on the head. They didn't just miseducate us, but even in that miseducation, they've given us tires and classes where and I'm told even employers, they don't say it because they know you'll take them to court. But I'm told that's what employers even do. If I come from UCT or VETS and somebody comes from Forte or University of Transkei and we apply for the same job, the institution you went to, if all else is equal, the institution you went to in the end will come as another proviso that sets you apart from the other candidate.
I'm glad you said that. The place where I used to work, where they fired me because I was agitating too much. Part of the agitation is because I was one of the people who were leading in the Black group for the Black employees. we did an analysis of their data, their employment data, and we found out that a majority of their employees came from Virginia Tech, right? A huge percentage from a specific school in a specific state. Huge percentage. And we were confronting that. We were asking, why you're saying you're down with HBCUs, but why are we looking at the numbers? The numbers are telling us different. So you're right about that, and you will only find it if you agitate, if you go into their records and look at the numbers. The numbers will always tell you. So as you all can see in the screen, that's the bronze tier. That's our beginning tier, and this tier is for those who want to support the process, the publishing process, but don't necessarily need a copy of the book. You want to donate $20 plus, but you don't necessarily need a copy of the book. So with this, Mama Khanyisile will send you a personalized digital thank you note. And that's the link where you'll be able to purchase. The link has been shared on the chat as well. So click there. But like I said, if you go to the website, all the tiers are there and you can just click and purchase. So that's our first tier. I said I was going to talk about the publishing process because I am one who advocates for us having more transparency in our community. I am one who is fighting 100% secrecy because I have found out that exploitation system thrives on secrecy. It thrives on secrecy. This whole idea, right? The organization I used to work with, the theme was need to know basis, on a need to know basis. So if
it's a defense force term. They took it from the military.
Yes, they actually are a law enforcement entity. I'm just not being specific with the name so that they don't sue me. But that's what they say. You are only told things on a need to know basis. So Nduko, who works in this organization, if this case is being worked on and I have no business in that department, those people in that case, even if they were my colleagues, would not tell me because I had no need to know. Right? And that is to protect themselves legally so that they can get away with shit. And that is also to keep you from knowing what's actually happening. So I am 100% fighting secrecy. And in the spirit of transparency, when myself and Oladele said to Mama Khanyisile, she shared that she had written a book, she was struggling publishing, and we said, listen, sis, we're going to help you, we're here for you. Thankfully, at that time, I had been introduced to Paul Coates's Black Classic Press digital printing, where we can all, as one Ubuntu, do our own personal printing, like self-publishing. I reached out to Paul Coates' company. Paul Coates responded back. I was on the phone with him talking and explaining what we needed. And Baba Paul Coates and Baba Mzee Kasahun, tafadhali, forgive me, but I'm telling the story because this is how it happened. Because I feel like most of us in the movement don't know the struggle because we talk. Most of us in the movement see us in spaces like this and think that we are living lavishly, and they don't understand what it actually takes to get things done. So I'm telling the story for that purpose. And as I'm on the phone with Paul Coates, he says to me, because he's in DC, I'm in New Jersey, he says to me, listen, I have even someone better for you. Mzee Kasahun Chekole of African World Press. He's right there in New Jersey with you. It's not a long drive, so I think he would be better for you. And you can work with him. So I'm sitting there and we're laughing, and I'm saying to him, listen, Mzee Coates, I am someone sitting here telling you that I own, or we started a publishing company while I'm sitting in my apartment. I'm risking losing my apartment. I don't have not even one tool of publishing. I don't have a printing press. I don't have anything. And I'm telling you, we own a publishing company. And he was laughing. Both of them were laughing. They said, that's where we started too. So Africa World Press, as renowned as it is, Paul Coates, as renowned as his publishing company is, they started there too. They started from the struggle too. And so this introduction led to where now Africa World Press, Kasahun Chekole, is mentoring me and helping us with the publishing process. And he came up with a strategy because I explained to him it was important to give Mama Khanyisile 100% ownership of her book. He came up with the budget and gave it to us and said, this is how much we need to raise. We need to raise this much. If you can raise this much, then that will support the publishing process. And part of it is myself, as a member of Bongi Ubuntu, who is this publishing company that doesn't have a printing press, is doing the work ahead of time to get paid later, because we are pushing for us to cross this river and get to a point where we are self-sustaining and we can liberate ourselves financially and support all this work. So that's the journey.
Yeah, and as you're saying, the Unduku, guys, actually listen to Unduku there. It's self-publishing, like I said, to give our sister the rights. It's basically, we do not want people, eating where they haven't sown, which is basically the way of the capitalist system. And what we need, guys, we need $20,000. $20,000 is what we need, but we believe in our community that we can do this. So we're putting it out there. Even if you want to give more than the tiers, please reach out to us. Somebody or 2 or 3 people can actually fund the whole thing.
Yeah, if you have $20,000, send it. If you have 40, send it. There's a lot of work that needs money. I'm sure Nsiki can speak to it too. Go on, Ladele, sorry.
Yeah, so basically that's all we need, and we published this book, and we're talking about African spirituality, our own story. This is basically our own story, not written by the Caucasians or whatever we've been indoctrinated with. We are telling our sister spent years researching this book. She spent so many years researching. How many years? Spent about 3 to 4 years researching this book, my sister.
Yes.
3 to 4 years researching this book. Yeah. So, and then it was sitting on the shelf there, and I spoke to her, and I think, come on, we need to get this, we need to get it out there, and that's basically what we're doing. So it's about Ubuntu, reaching out to each other, getting our work out there. This is all we're doing. This is basically, if you follow myself, Unduku, Khanyisile, this is all we're about. It's not about our self-glorification. It's about reaching out and helping one another, and this is how the community needs to be built, and this is what we're trying to do here, guys. If you see us, this is all we're doing. I'm playing it out there. Let's support my sister. Let's get these books on the shelf. We're looking to publish this book. It's September or August. When are we looking?
We would like September. We would like to get it out September 25th.
So we're looking to get this book out September.
With the African New Year.
Yeah, and that's the African New Year.
With the African New Year.
African New Year, which basically was a fitting time to get this book out there. African New Year, African spirituality, just linking together. So guys, let's do this. We need your support. Wherever you live watching, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, Facebook, whatever you are, please, let's support this. If you want to give us more than the tiers, please reach out to us. It's a fundraising. We need all the money. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. Let's dive into the question that we were talking about before.
Okay, I'm going to go with my first question. This is a question, this is a personal one, because we're in this journey. We're talking about African spirituality here, and which is what the book is about. And as you move away from the mainstream religion, because I call them religion, there's nothing spiritual about them. Mainstream religion, Christianity, Islam, and whatever. Mainly because I used to be a Christian, so I moved away from Christianity. And in the Christian religion, we're talking about heaven and hell. Mm-hmm. Our elder Chester Higgins delved into this topic last week. It was basically deep. Heaven and hell. And then, as we know the world as we live in today, there's so much evil going on. Mm. So people think, okay, because there's so much evil going on, Christianity says if you commit so much sin on earth, obviously there's a hell waiting for you for the consequences. Mm. But in African spirituality, there doesn't seem to be a heaven and hell. So people kind of can't get their heads around how do people get punished if there's no heaven and hell? If we say in African spirituality, there's no heaven and hell, because a lot of people cannot get, even I'll say my wife struggles. We basically had a long conversation about this for an hour with my wife a couple of days ago, talking about this. So she can't get her head around the fact that, okay, people go through all this evil. They've done all these things. And obviously Christianity says there's hell. If we say there's no hell, so how do people get punished?
Mm. Well, I love that question because who punishes people under Christianity?
Wow.
Look, Christianity itself, the Bible itself, the Quran itself agrees. I could have killed a whole nation. That's a crime called genocide. Mm. If at the moment of my dying, I convert and I accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I am going to heaven. How that nation that suffered genocide comes out of it, that's not my business. I am not there to pick up the pieces. Reverse. I could have led a very pious Christian life for 30 years. And on the last week of my death, I backslide for some reason, pressure, problems, and I die in my backslidden state. That 30 years does not count. Oh, that's what the Bible says. I'm not making this up. That's what Christianity itself says. So I don't know where people come off with the belief that Christianity is going to send people to heaven or earth, or that as a system, it mitigates justice. Look, I have a simple question that my daughter asked me at 13. If the doctrine of heaven and hell were truly, truly true, it stuck, how is it that the same people who brought Christianity here brought it under torture, rape, land dispossession? They brought it under such atrocities. So I'm trying to understand. So what were those people doing? They were condemning themselves to hell. They brought the good news. I mean, in every slavery fort, I've been to the one in, what's the island in Tanzania?
Zanzibar.
I've been to the one in Zanzibar, which was run by the Arabs. I've been to the one here in Ghana. I've seen those in Kenya, my sister. In all of them, there's above, the slave quarters were built underneath.
Yep.
But on top was the administration office, the quarters of the administrators. But guess what else was there? The church.
Yeah.
The church would be going on a Sunday while a slave was dying underneath from the poor conditions,
Or being raped,
death or raped or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know these people who think that the doctrine of heaven and hell is a justifiable doctrine that brings justice. I mean, that's why we struggled to even find the word justice in Tsigi. That's why we stuck to UBULUNGISA, because translated in English, a very weak translation of it is justice. But we know there's no justice in justice in the Western Christian or Arab sense, because, I mean, how many people are in prison today who did not commit those crimes, but they were too poor to afford good lawyers? How many people are not in prison because they can command money and they can command good lawyers?
AKA Trump.
Yeah, look at the Ramaphosa case in South Africa. I can't, because I deal with everybody in the continent and people give me $50 there, $100 there. FNB, my bank, cannot clear that money unless I physically go and say what it is intended to. $50, guys, 50. Doesn't even translate to so much rent. I must say why it's in my account, who's given it to me. Ramaphosa kept how much, Ntsigi, under his bed? And the courts pay because he commands the authority of being the president. So I don't know where people come off thinking Christianity is a system that has come to meet justice and punitive against the evildoers. I don't know. I rather believe in a system that says both do not exist, because for the poor there is no heaven or hell. Both does not exist.
Mama Khanyisile, do you think, as you talk about UBULUNGISA, and the fact that it's not fitting to call it justice, and we must, given that knowledge, we must find a better way to describe it, right? And in the journey of finding a better way, we talk about reparations, which comes from repairing, restoration. Do you think that's a much better way to refer to it? Because it means balancing. So if there's so much wrong, things are not the way they should be, UBULUNGISA comes in and balances it, right? In gender, deconstructing gender, UBULUNGISA is coming back and saying, no, the African woman had a position. No, stop diminishing her. Like, so it's forcing us to bring her back.
Yeah, and I don't want to encourage you to find a befitting translation of UBULUNGISA in any of the Western languages, because you will not find it. Maybe in the languages they spoke before. So, for instance, if you talk about the Scots, maybe in Gaelic you'll find it, but not in the English they speak, because the European languages as we know them today are synonymous with the development of the nation state, synonymous with centralized religion, synonymous with power dynamics playing out in religion, synonymous with patriarchal systems. So I doubt that you will find it. If you talked about the English people, maybe in the language they spoke before, because they were called the Germanic people, and don't confuse it with German, maybe you'll find it, not in the languages that exist to them as they exist today. I think we are lucky. We really should consider ourselves lucky in Africa, in that a lot of our pre-colonial languages have survived. Yeah, there's bastardizations that have crept in. For instance, in calling our originators, people call Kamata or Umvelngang, which is the originator for Zulu and Xhosa people, they call them a male. You know, that's the bastardization. But I think by and large, we still have our languages. They lost them. So I'm not sure you're going to find what you're looking for. Let's just stick to UBULUNGISA.
Yeah.
Big word.
Okay, I got some questions. This one here. If you can read that one. It said, I have a question. I'm trying to trace my lineage back to before the UBULUNGISA came to South Africa. Please share any sources you've used in your own research that could point me in the right direction.
So Bahurutsi are today an ethnicity within the Tswana people, Abatswana. So that's why I always argue, Oladele, that you can't call AmaXhosa an ethnic group. You are downgrading them. That's what colonialism did. There are ethnicities within AmaXhosa, but AmaXhosa as a people are a nation. Abatswana as a people are a nation. So the ethnic groups within Abatswana would be Bahurutsi, Bakwena, Batlaping, Barolong, but Batswana as a people are a nation. So the person is asking a specific historical question that they can journey with me as we try and unpack it. But it's safe for me to tell the person who's asking the question that for even Botswana to sit as they sit today, as I've called the different ethnic groups, including Bahurutsi, which is that person's ethnicity, for them to be collectively called Botswana today itself is an evolution. So Bahurutsi would have been a people and a nation on its own, an entity on its own, with its own dialect, with its own leadership system. So this bundling of these ethnicities into this false nation state is part of what has diminished the history of these entities. So I think that's where the person should start. Don't look at Bahurutsi as Botswana. Look at Bahurutsi as Bahurutsi.
Andiku. Okay, you're muted, sis.
There we go. So I'm going to quickly put the second tier before I go ahead and ask this question. And this is the silver tier. This is a tier for, now we start talking about the tiers of people who actually want to get a copy of the book. If you want to take the journey to reclaiming our African spirituality and learn the lessons that are in the book, this is $25. And I'll say the book's retail price is $30. And this mainly, so for those of you who are at home, our brothers and sisters at home in Nsia Ubuntu, otherwise known as Africa, these are not prices for you, because we understand that have to adjust. Yes. Let me make that note before we continue and you all get back. Let me come back and give a nice big cuddle to you all. Please rest easy, my brothers and sisters. $30 is not for you. The price will be adjusted for you. This is for us to get the first phase of the publishing out so that we can start giving Mama Khanyisile an income, right? And this one is focused on the West. And then we are going to come back with the second phase where we'll adjust the price, hopefully at the end of the year, and we'll start talking about that and telling you what that price is. But if you is an African at home in Nsia Ubuntu that is living large, if you is an African who's benefiting from the exploitation of our people, please drop that $30 and actually drop more. because you got it. If you is an African who's driving a Maserati in Nsi Ubuntu, living in a mansion in Nsi Ubuntu, please drop that $30. All right. So that's here. My sisters and brothers.
I'm seeing a question here about the inspiration of the title of the book.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing.
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit, because the importance of this question for me is that it brings us to topics like the Holocaust and how the Jews got reparations. But this conversation around our reparations is so difficult, and hence you're calling it UBULUNGISA, to fix. So can we answer that question, Usiv?
Thank you, Ntsiki. Yes, you hit the nail on the head with that intro there. See, what fascinates me with African spirituality, and I think in the book I looked at about 20, 30 of them, is that what we call the originator is a religion, says God. Their gender is often almost never disclosed. And it is not disclosed because we don't have gender grammar. So nothing forced us to disclose it, because we don't have his, her, she, him. Somebody responded to Umoya the other time and very derogatively said, Ntsiki, what do you mean by that? Because we do have the word umfana, intombazana, which is boy or girl. That's biology. Please don't display your ignorance. Don't be arrogant in displaying your ignorance. That's not gender, that's biology. There is no gender grammar in African languages. So when I say uqamata, which is the originator in Xhosa, or umvelinqangi, which is the originator in Zulu, if you make them male, I'll ask you, but I would also say uNtsiki, and we are sitting here with her. You can clearly see she's not male. So why then would you say umvelinqangi is a male? Because we use the same prefix for both. So we had an undisclosed gender of the originator. But here's where it gets interesting for me, because the pantheon of African spirituality is that after the originator comes the deities, after the deities comes the ancestors, after the ancestors comes the living personages, which would be priests or pastors or whoever for religion. Now, in the pantheon of deities, you get both. You have male deities, you have female deities. Guess what? You have cross-gender deities. You have deities that would cross both biological genders. That's deities. Then you have ancestors. We all know those are the people who walk the face of the earth. So again, you would have the genders represented there. Then you have the personages on earth. That's why we have a word like priestess, and we are even jack-rolling it because we didn't have gender grammar. We didn't say there's a priest and a priestess, but we are borrowing it to show that, like Neander of Amashona, Neander Nyagasikana, who is in the poem, she was a priestess. A spiritist is the one I prefer. But there were other spiritists with her who were not female. So UBULUNGISA then for me became a word that says, because UBULUNGISA is to fix in Nguni languages in South Africa, Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, and Swati. So UBULUNGISA is a concept, a philosophy, which Ndugu you've alluded to, constant act of balancing. Because we knew that if we go and we say the originator is a male, which is what religion have gone and done, God is a man, Allah is a man, what then stops men from having a superiority complex? Do you realize we'll never win the war on patriarchy until we win the war in religion?
Wow. Yeah.
It's subconscious. Africans, it's subconscious. Just like it's subconscious for the white race to be superior, because the reigning doctrine out there is white superiority. It doesn't matter where you go. It's unconscious. A captain said to me when I was in the Navy, when you're white, it's almost like you must struggle not to be racist. To be racist comes naturally. Because the prevailing doctrine is white supremacy. So if God is a man, what stops men from having a superiority complex over women? If Jesus is a man, if the angels are men, if the first disciples were men, If the mother of all churches, no woman can be a priest, the Catholic Church to date. If nuns are raped and when they get pregnant, the parish expels them, but the priest who raped them continues perishing that church. If all of those things happen, what stops an ordinary man watching this not to conclude that I am a superior species and I'm better than this breasted species? It's only natural. Which is why it's called UBULUNGISA in our spirituality, the Nguni people, because we didn't want you to know the gender of Kamata. In any case, we didn't draw them, we didn't carve them, we don't even know how they look. We don't have a picture. Nobody can, in your face, tell you, I know the picture of Umvelingana. We don't have it. The picture we have is of the deities, of the ancestors, and of the living personages with reflect all genders. So that's why it's called Bulungisa. Right there, our spirituality was fixing an imbalance. That's what I like about spirituality. It's proactive. It fixes the problem before it even happens. I mean, what were Christians thinking by this so stratified patriarchal doctrine? They didn't think it will create patriarchy. Didn't they think this will lead to the abuse of women? It defies logic for me.
Two things there, Mama Khanyisile, and I love these conversations, and that's what they are, right? We're just common street terms. We're just chilling and having a talk, right? My critical analysis self is now looking at what you're saying, and it's coming to conclusions. And one of the conclusions that I'm coming to is, as a woman, you cannot be a feminist and a Christian. As a woman, you cannot be a feminist and a Muslim. As a woman, you cannot be a feminist and follow any religious organization that tells you that God is a male. The two are defeating. You cannot. And so the question is, and you know, this yesterday I decided I have been fighting this. I turn on Netflix. Every now and then when I'm going through the struggle, one of the things that makes me relieve it is just watching some TV show. And yesterday I turned on Netflix and I had finished watching, they have a comedy there of a Black woman, Act Your Age. I had finished watching that and I was like, okay, I'm looking, it's Bridgerton showing, because you know Netflix will tell you what to watch next.
Yeah.
Bridgerton is showing and I'm like, I don't want to watch this white nonsense. But I am being pulled towards it. And it's interesting because later now it makes sense. And as I was watching it yesterday, and this is something because I'm so focused on our people that I had forgotten how they themselves, white people, treated each other. In the show, the women have no right. In the show, there's a woman, her father is dead, they are wealthy, it's a wealthy family. So now apparently it's the season, the queen is demanding that someone must betroth someone. And they're all coming to the palace, and now they have the queen is hosting dances, and the men come and they're going to choose women. So this one family, they have daughters, and the eldest daughter now has to be betrothed, right? Someone has to propose to her or she's going to lose her honor. Imagine that. But in this process, her father is dead, so the brother is the one in charge. Do you know that the brother was making decisions that the mother could not challenge? His mother could not challenge. His own mother could not challenge. She had to listen to him. And so he's forcing the sister to force a man to marry a man who the sister did not want to marry. But she and her mother had no voice.
Wow.
In that society.
I'm sure Ntsiki wants to come in somewhere here, but before she does, I have a better example for you.
Wow.
When religion came to Europe, I think because I'm a Litchfield, I'm forced to research how my people were before they became the English and the Scots, because that's the conglomeration of the Litchfield. Litchfield is English, but Litchfield had married a Scot, so both cultures interest me. Now, when Christianity was sweeping through Europe, who bore the brunt of the forced conversions? Has it ever struck you? The white woman. Do you know how many? There's a period of Catholicism called the Inquisition, where the Pope had inquisitors who were mandated from Rome, from the papacy, to go around in all the villages and to burn women at stake who were suspected of practicing spirituality. Women were hanged upside down, head down, feet up, and bent from the head all the way to the feet, alive, just for gazing at the moon. The village would come together. That's where the term witch hunt comes from. They were hunting witches, and being a witch meant you are practicing spirituality. The village would come together and say, yes, Ntsiki has a nose ring that's shaped in the shape of a half moon. Yeah, we see Ntsiki often looking at the full moon. We see Ntsiki reading people's palms, and then you would be crucified as a witch. So your example is even far. White women are themselves such victims of Christianity that in the end, for me, it defies logic how they even uphold that doctrine, because many of their ancestors died painful, horrific deaths at the hand of Christianity, just for daring to hold on to the Gaelic spirituality or the Germanic spirituality or what other spirituality was out there amongst those various nationalities before they became the nations that they are. So it would seem to me that religion is wildly opposed to a woman.
Yeah.
That's why the last chapter in the book is a juxtaposition of the position of a woman in spirituality and in religion. For Africans, it's a position of where we were as African women in spirituality and what we are now as African women in Christianity. The disparity is north and south. It does not meet. We lost so much, African women. So much.
Let that sink in for everyone who is fighting. And this is not a matter of we are right, we are wrong. The reason why, and please, Nsiki and Oladele, feel free to jump in. Nsiki, check out the private chat.
Oh yeah.
So this is not a matter of myself or Ladele. We've been having these battles on LinkedIn with people that look like me and you, coming for us, talking to us and telling us we are forcing them to change their belief. We are bringing division in our African community. No, if we are saying that our religion, our spirituality is part of the reason, the fact that we are detached from it is the part of the reason why we are still being subjugated.
Yep.
Why should it not be important for myself, Oladele, Mama Khanyisile, Nsiki, and others to remind you, our brothers and sisters, that we need to return to it so that we can stop being subjugated as a collective? This is not a matter of your church is the best, my church is the best, you won't go to heaven, you won't go to hell. No, we want to stop the subjugation here now.
I feel like there seems to be a problem, and I don't know what it has to do with, but there's a problem with women holding power. It makes people very uncomfortable. And what has been challenging, and I'm sure for many other brilliant and clever women, is that, where men are physically strong, usually us intellectually, we are quite strong in that area. But that has been suppressed so much that I feel like even the development of the Black community is being set back because of this Western construct of women being dispossessed of power and voices.
Yep.
When
big
I
time.
look at the South African context, when I compare myself to a Julius Malema and the amount of respect that he's managed to command, where he can just lead. However, in the most dire moments, like in COVID, it was Nsiki Mazwai who knew what to do in that moment. So when we take away the woman's voice and the woman's power, it's working against us. And how are we going to get to a place where women are able to contribute what they're supposed to contribute so that we can actually move forward? Because even when you look at, even back to the EFF example, they've almost ejected all the powerful female voices that they had, and now it's becoming just a slump of a rotten a white elephant situation, where now there's no intellectual direction or
There's no balance. There's no balance.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
I like how the spirit works. I'm sorry I flew, so my voice breaks from time to time. I like the spirit world in Tsiki because it has a way to return us to where we started. So I started by saying I wrote the book or got the name of the book because I came to a point where I understood that being in African spirituality is where the wisdom and the opening of my third eye and the opening of the portal of this knowledge will come from. Now, the example you just gave of saying men can be whatever, they are leaders. If you do the same thing that men do, you get labeled. I will go to the source of it quickly. Have you guys ever thought about Solomon in the Bible?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about Solomon? He abused women, he
What he
slept
got away with.
around.
Yeah.
Solomon couldn't command. I'm sorry, I'll name a spade, and Sigi and Oladele and Ndugu. Solomon did not have the decency to command his own pennies, but Solomon is described as the wisest man
Imagine.
in the Bible, in history, in time, in space. So what does that say to any man?
Oof.
There is nowhere in the Bible where a man's behavior like that is described as prostitution, ubufebe in our language. He knows that name is only used on women. But in the Bible, you have women described as the harlot of this place, Mary Magdalene as having 9 husbands. Well, Solomon had how many wives?
Exactly.
But we are told to look up to him as the wisest man in history.
Wow.
So that has an origin, Ntsiki. That's why I argue we shall not fight patriarchy until we confront the patriarchy that is in the religion. Because when a woman is bold, they are disrespectful.
Yes.
When a man is bold, he's ambitious. I use a lot of obscene language and I enjoy it. Like bullshit is bullshit. I don't know what you want me to call it. And that's distasteful. But men use these words all the time. They use West words. They talk about their own sisters and girlfriends.
In the conference room, Mama Khanyisile.
Of mine. They're talking about their own girlfriends. That's slut of mine. And that's not distasteful. So it's got a place of origin, Tsiki, that thing. Yes, but to answer your question quickly, until women find, and it is in the concluding chapter where I do the comparisons of women in spirituality and women in religion, until women understand that we are the esoteric beings. What do I mean that speak English? We are the more spiritually attuned gender than the men.
I agree 100%.
Yes, that's why in Tsigi, in the proper sense of it, not the bastardized thing we are seeing in South Africa now, Isangoma, which is a seer, was 99.9% a woman, not a man. Because you need spiritual attuneness. You need to be spiritually astute for you to see into the future, for you to close your eyes, touch somebody's hand, and see things about them. So women were seers, men were inyanga, they were healers. A healer is a doctor, it's a trade, you learn it. That's why for you to be inyanga, you would follow a trained inyanga, carry their bag, see how they mix that herb and that herb. It is in the physical. It is not in the spiritual. It's a trade. Now we've blurred the lines, So until women realize we are the esoteric beings and snap out of religion, embrace spirituality, because that's where your esotericism is embraced. That's where Saronia could shapeshift into a panther without being called a witch and burned at stake. So until we come to that point, our third eye shall forever be closed, and our communities, as you say in Tsigi's eyes, shall be closed with our eyes which are closed. The liberation of any African community does not lie in the bravery of men, but in the spirituality of their women.
Ooh. You say that, and again, my critical analysis skills are kicking in. And I'm saying what Mama Khanyisile is making sense, not because I adore her, not because I respect her, not because she's a star and I want to follow her, not because I'm sitting here and I just want to rebel against Christianity, but because common sense is kicking in. And common sense is saying to me, of course, what she's saying makes sense, that the woman is more spiritually attuned. Why do I say that? Because we are the ones literally bringing life in, and therefore we are connected with the entity that spiritually brings it into us so that we can bring it into the physical form. Like, it is right there in front of all your eyes. The woman is the one who takes the spirit from spirit form, holds it in her physical body, and nurtures it to bring it into physical form. Like, yo, please, I want to say other words, but I'm going
That's
to.
a big deal.
Yes.
That's a big, we are a portal
Big.
from the
Big.
ancestral world. It's a big deal.
That is why Nsigi will know this word. Eish, I wish we all spoke each other's languages as Africans, because like in South Africa, me, like Nsigi, who is a Sowetan, who speaks, writes and reads the bulk of them, I know there are words that are properly described in a language than the others. So for Nguni languages, Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, and Swati, and Nsigi is part of it because she's Xhosa. We have a word that does not exist in European languages. It's not even in their dictionary. It's called Inimba. I don't know how to describe Inimba, Nsigi. Help me. Because it's in the book.
It's in the book.
Inimba is what Nsigi alluded to in a way, because we are a portal from the spirit world to the physical world. We then were imbued with senses and feelings and strength of psychology and mind that you will not necessarily find in a man. So Inimba for us is what sears below your belly button. It's what sears when the community is in pain, when a child is in pain, when somebody is being abused. Sorry. Inimba is what sears in a woman when you see injustice, when you see there isn't ubulungisa here. So I don't know if you want to help me out, Nsigi, with defining Inimba, but yeah, I find it very special.
Given what you're saying quickly, Nsiki, let me step in and then you step in as the culturally attuned person, more than me, right? In that language. As I was reading the book, and I'm saying again, let me make it clear: the book is not published. I'm editing, that's why I'm reading the book. So it's not yet published. Don't think that I have a copy that I'm reading, because I know our people and they want this information, and we've been getting questions like, "Can I get it now?" Right? And I know our people really want it. So the book is not published yet.
Yeah,
But
just buy it and fund it, please, and we can
yes,
get it out to you.
yes, and we're going to talk about the gold tier in a quick second. But given how you're saying it, and given how I saw it in the book, and given what you were saying before, the closest thing, and I'm trying very much to get away from Western culture, is that third eye you were talking about, is in, because we call it, in, if I'm going to indulge Western languages, we call it intuition, we call it our is it a sixth sense, that thing that when your stomach is uneasy because something is going on, that thing. I remember my mom told me this story when I was younger. She was in the city, she had already moved to the city to work, and so the way in Kenya it works, those who are working are in the city, but we all have homes in the rural area, and that's your home. No one can take it away from you unless they, through exploitation, grab it, right? Her grandfather, which is my great grandfather, was dying. She didn't know, but while she was in the city, she got this sense. A sense came upon her. I think that's the Inimba. A sense came upon her that told her something is not right. And it was To me, that's when the grandfather is speaking to her spiritually. But she does not have, because at that point, colonialism has also already set in, Christianity has already set in, so she's already detached from her African spirituality. She does not know what is going on until later she sits now and puts things together and realizes that that was a spiritual cry from her grandfather saying farewell to her. So the best way I can describe it, and Nsiki, please step in, is that sixth sense, that knowing that you can't quite explain, that you sit there and say, something just doesn't feel right.
Oh, sorry, I was muted there. No, totally. That's why I said that men are gifted physically, but spiritually, that's our domain. And that's why it's so shocking, even in churches, when churches are like having male preachers, you know, the impact of patriarch, because you're like, no, but you don't have that thing, you know? You might have it a little bit, obviously, because this is nature and we've all got a bit of everything. But honestly speaking, women should be in leadership, especially in the spiritual spaces. So yeah, we just got it, man. We just got it. When you got it, you got it, man.
Yeah, but you guys are our mothers. You know, you brought us to life. So you have the nurturing nature. I'm a man, and I see this in my wife all the time. You have the nurturing nature, things that I don't care about. My wife, you know, she's got a sixth sense. I have to listen to this woman because she's my spiritual guide. Because sometimes things I don't pick up, she picks up, and this is something I've learned being with my wife for so many years. That's that sixth sense that tells me, listen. And when you listen as men, I know a lot of men don't want to hear this, but I'm a man. I've been with my wife for so many years, and a sixth sense is just amazing. You know, she never goes wrong. That's I can actually tell people that she doesn't. When she says it happens.
As we talk about deconstructing gender relations in African spirituality, and the reason why we are deconstructing them is so that we can, through UBULUNGISA, bring balance and return our way, right? That's the reason. But as you say that, you know what men refer to that woman when their woman is doing that, what you're saying? When I'm like, honey, something is not right. They say, oh, everything is fine, babe. No. Everything is not fine. You're not telling me everything. And it's, oh, you have a situation with someone, you're like, are we okay? They say, yes, we're okay. I'm like, no, we're not okay. Because I can feel it in your energy.
Yeah, of course you do.
Say that woman is nagging. That's the term for us. My wife is so nagging. These women are so nagging. These women are so emotional. So we in our community, this is now to you, my brothers. But
Unduku, I gotta say something. I know you do nag sometimes, women do, but you never stop. But
no,
with men,
hold on, mansplain, sit on your side right now. I'm talking to you.
But we need to listen. We need to listen. You know, you can put the nagging aside. There is the core message that woman gives to men.
Exactly. Don't Oladele, honestly, do not entertain it at all. Like, let's not entertain that nagging term at all. Because what it does, it sets us back. Let us all start moving. And this is to my brothers again. My son, I will remind him, as much as he doesn't like to hear me tell him stuff, I will remind you, when your woman speaks, as painful as it is to your mind, stop and ask yourself, what is she telling me? We need to start as men in our community. If we're going to do our community, we start respecting our women, and part of respecting them is listening. I mean, that's all it's costing you to listen.
We have to listen. I'm a man here amongst our sisters, but I'm telling you, I'm in late 50s, and I cannot do anything without my wife saying so. Yeah, that's wisdom.
But no, it's like that, hey? It's like that. Like
if she doesn't say okay, I cannot do it.
It's like that. Even, you know, the more evolved men, you can see, like, even when there's old men who are older than me, the evolved ones, they know the order of, and they know, you know, so it's I just wish we could just make sure that everybody, because a lot of Black men are getting left behind because of not acknowledging the great feminine goddess and divine energy,
this is what
right?
this is what the religion has done to our psyche. And this is why we're trying. Yeah, this is what it's done to us.
I was just gonna say again, it has an origin, because have you seen comedy movies? Even Hollywood, a whole Hollywood will show you a woman has inimba, where a woman is in the living room, the child is walking away, and the mother is saying, "Don't do this, don't do this," and the mother says, "And don't laugh." And us who are viewing, we will see that that child would be laughing. And then sometimes you turn around and they say, "How do you know?" And the mother will say, "Because I know." There's also another thing they've taken away from us, the ability to multiply, because we have inimba. You know, because we receive the sperm and we can multiply it into a life, sometimes twins, sometimes quadruplets. So we take a sperm and we can subdivide it into so many lives. We can give birth to 4 kids at the same time. They took that away from us. That's why I say it's got a place and time. So this multiplication thing was taken away from women when Jesus multiplied that 2 fish and how many loaves of bread? 2. No man can do that.
Yeah.
That's a lie. Nah, lie, say Nigerians.
No,
No man
lie.
can
Yeah,
do that.
that's so we
No
say
man
upon
can
Nigeria.
do
No,
that.
lie.
It's only women who do that. It's only women who feeds 16 people with a cup of meal.
Hey.
Solomon is said to be the wisest because when those 2 women were fighting over a baby, he said, "Oh, let's cut the baby into 2." And the real owner said, "No." Then they accredit him wisdom for that. No, they are taking. You know, there are small nuances in the Bible that are I don't know the word. I know for men they say emasculate. I don't know for us what's the word, Nsigi. But those small nuances are taking away from the inimba of a woman, and they are giving that attribute to the men. No man could have thought like that. No man would have had the patience to sit and listen to that story. You know, actually, a man would have said, "Oh, because you are fighting over this child, I am taking this child, then the state will raise this child.
Yes.
Both of you go away with nothing." It's only a woman who will find a small incident and say, "Okay, this will really tell me who here is, you know, an imposter and the actual mother." So it's got a place, and you know, that's why people say you are taking Christianity. I am not. I was Catholic, I was born again, but I've lived it to the fullest. That's why I know the cracks within it, and people don't understand. See, I think another dilemma that religious people have, Oladele, is that they half play these things. So someone tells you I'm a Christian, and I always say to them, "Okay, what's the history of Christianity?" You know, everything has a history. Do you know the history? Do you know the history of the councils? We are now in the Catholic one. I think it's called Vatican. I don't know Vatican what. They come by numbers, but it started with the first council in the book of Acts when Paul and Peter were still alive, where the fight was these Gentiles coming in. Now, if you're not a Jew, like you and me, all of us here are Gentiles. We are grafted in. When all of us were being grafted in, and Paul insisted we shouldn't keep the whole law because we are not Jews. And Peter was like, "No, they should keep the law because if they are followers of Christ, that's what Christ did." And they called that first meeting. There's been meeting after meeting in Christianity taking decisions. Now, when you're a Christian and you don't have that history, you don't even know what you're following. Because, you know, Christianity demarcates between Catholicism and Protestantism. If you're not Catholic, everybody else is a Protestant. But I've always asked them, Tsiki, what's the fundamental difference between the two? Because at the end of the day, it's Catholicism that decides when is Easter. And Protestants fall in line and observe Easter that year. It's the Vatican that decided. I don't know them in numbers. I think it can be a podcast on its own after the book or outside the book sales. You know, when the church was dwindling and struggling and people were getting their spiritual groove back, it's the Vatican that sat and decided, especially in Africa, but also in the whole world, let's introduce bumping and rolling because that's entertainment, because that's where the mind is. The Catholic Church at that time even allowed clapping, started allowing drumming, started It never was in my time.
Yeah.
But who decided that? It's not the Protestants, it's the Catholic Church. So who leads Christianity? The Catholic Church. So is there Protestant and a Catholic? Bullshit. All of you, if you are a Christian, are Catholics. Because the leadership of the world is under the Pope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Pope decides so much for Christianity.
That you and I'm taking notes because I'm trying not to forget things as you're talking, because it's sparking all these questions as you talk. Two things you said there. The one I'd like to address is the fact that there's a word for the calling it dehumanization of the male, but there's no word for the dehumanization of a female. There's a lot to say about that. The fact that it's emasculating to describe when you take away the man's position that they have assigned themselves, but there's no word for you taking away the woman's position.
Yes.
That says everything, basically. Yeah, that says everything.
Yes.
If there's no word, it means there's no accountability. Because what are you going to come? Where are you going to go and say you did this?
It means it's not a thing. It doesn't matter.
It says everything. Yeah, women don't count.
In Tsiki's language, it's not a big deal.
Mm.
And that time, through colonialism and religion, it is the woman who has borne the brand of being downgraded from human to dust.
But there's no word.
I always give this quick example. Where before the African woman was a procreator, the word you used, where before the African woman was the most spiritually attuned, as Ntsiki and Oladele said, religion came to say what? You are the originator of sin. You are aware, according to religion, sin came into the world through a woman. Yeah. That's why in the book of Revelation, the woman, the woman is officially described as the beguiler. Big Shakespearean English, beguiler is deceiver. So why should men trust you if the Bible itself knows that you are a deceiver of human beings? If the Bible itself knows that you are a weaker sex? If the Bible itself knows that you can't teach men, learn in silence, why should a man even give you?
And there again, you're triggering.
Any thoughts?
There again, you're triggering another question, and another point. And this is I'm not bragging, but I'm telling you all, this is how you should learn. This is how you need to start. Oh goodness gracious. Okay, can you all still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Right, sorry, my computer is acting up. So this is how we should all sit and listen when we are being told by people who have done the work and have the knowledge, where you're willing to let what they're saying take you to places where you're asking questions so that you can find answers, not necessarily just follow it because they're saying it. And my question is, if the woman is the deceiver, and I'm going to go ahead and ask the other one I didn't ask before. If the woman is the deceiver, why is reality showing me different? When we look around the world, everyone who's deceiving, mostly, we're talking about large scale, is male. The United States government is male-led. The Berlin Conference was male-led. Capitalism is male-led. Those are all deceiving systems.
The UN was male-founded. Rockefeller gave the ground for where the United Nations HQ stands in America today.
Global deception is led by men.
The banks, the founding of the banking system was Rothschild. Amen.
Yeah, guys, that's because they put themselves in those positions. They can mislead people.
But yet the woman is the deceiver. But in actuality, the false narrative is the woman is the deceiver. So we're busy looking at her saying, you deceiver, while the man is busy doing
exactly.
That's because we don't want to take responsibility. We don't want to take accountability of what we're doing wrong. And we need to go back to basics, is what we're talking about, guys.
Yes.
We need to go back
to basics.
The other thing that had me thinking as you were talking, and this is on Solomon, as you were saying, and this is where you sit and you're like, man, this is some bullshit. And it is some bullshit, right? They're telling us that Solomon is the one who made this. Solomon probably had a woman who whispered in his ear. And we've seen this in history where certain women are the ones who made things happen. Again, in our own civil rights, Martin Luther King Jr., I'm not saying this to disrespect him. We appreciate everything that he did, but he did not respect the women in his life. He did not let them get the credit in the movement. He took it all. Our men in the Pan-African movement
But he was a Christian.
allowed
I don't
women
blame
not to
him.
get credit.
He moved from his belief system. He was a Christian.
100%. So Solomon probably had a woman who whispered, your majesty, your majesty, why don't you tell them to cut the woman? It's probably going to, and that woman doesn't get credit.
Mama Khanyisile, we got this little question there, just talking to what you're talking to about. Somebody's asking, what about the South African Christian churches like Shembe and ZCC?
But before Mama Khanyisile answers that quickly, so that we don't lose sight of our goal, because the conversation can make us lose sight, and then you'll go there. This is the third tier, which is the gold tier. This is $200. You get 5 books, 5 signed copies of the book once the book is published. You get all the perks that we have in the silver tier, and you get early access to bonus, anything that Mama Khanyisile, and as I'm reading, I actually, as I'm editing the book, I'm seeing, oh, this is going to be, she's going to need to add some more here. So there definitely will be another phase of this book, and you will be fast early access to that. And like I said, the website is the place. If you have, if you cannot see this, if you cannot get access to the links, the website is the place where all these tiers are and the links are. So please visit the website. Mama Khanyisile Oladele.
Yeah, I was just a question there. Let me see if I can get it back.
But I had it.
Yeah, you had it. Okay.
Yeah, I had it. So how about the South African, I like what the person say, Christian churches like Shembe and ZCC, which are not linked to Catholicism. But even Assemblies of God is not linked to Catholicism. I don't think the person heard me correctly. Anybody, according to Christian definition, who is not Catholic is Protestant. So Shembe and ZCC would fall under Protestantism. But I am here to say that's bullshit. There is no division between Catholicism and Protestantism, because at the end of the day, the vicar of Christ on earth is the Pope. He is the representative of Christ on earth, not Shembe, not Lichanyana of ZCC. Lichanyana of ZCC is told by the Pope each year when Easter will fall that year. So who's not Catholic? Does Shembe and ZCC celebrate their own Easter outside of the Easter that the Pope had decided? Also, do they have a separate doctrine from the doctrine of heaven and hell? Because remember, our spirituality pre-colonially has no heaven or hell. So if Lichanyana, who is the leader of ZCC, and Shembe espouse to the doctrine of heaven and hell, where do they get it from? I'm not saying they are. I'm saying if they, because the person has described them as Christian churches. But also, here's another one. In your Kamba community, in your Yoruba community, Oladele, in your Xhosa community, Ntsiki, I'm talking now pre-colonial, did you have a place where you assembled at once a week to praise somebody? Because we don't have a doctrine of praising. This thing of congregating, that's why they're even called congregations. Shembe is a congregation, ZCC is a congregation. That thing comes from the Bible. We never had a special place which is holier than the others in terms of the presence of the originator and ancestors. The land and the whole land was holy. That's why wherever you were, if you took a drink, before you drink, you would pour down. We didn't have a special place where you poured anywhere because the whole land was sacred. Now, if Shembe and ZCC congregate on a particular day of the week, where does that come from? That's Christianity. That's Catholicism. That's the mother of all churches. That was the first church on earth, by the way.
Yep.
Protestantism breaks from Catholicism through Martin Luther with the thesis of how many? 16 or whatever, where he finds faults with the Catholic Church. But he's not saying I'm not a Christian. He just says I'm not a Christian through the Catholic way. But yeah.
Remind them, Mama Khanyisile, that that's the Mzungu Luther, not the Mweusi Luther. That's the white Luther.
That's the
white Luther, not the black Luther that we know.
Oh, yeah. That's why I didn't add the word king.
Yeah.
That's why I said Martin Luther, the original of Germany, Gutenberg, yeah. He nailed a thesis of demands at the church in Gothenburg because he said the Catholic Church has become rotten, so it needs to be amended, which is where the Lutheran Church comes from and was formed. So when you are a Christian, please don't fool yourself and say, I'm a Protestant, I'm not a Catholic. You are all Catholics because even the celebration of December 25 is a Catholic thing. It was started by Constantine, who was a Roman emperor, because he took it from Mithraism. The Christmas tree of Christmas, the rabbits of Easter, all of that thing was Mithraism. It crept into the church through the Roman Empire, the Roman Catholic Church, which was forcing Mithrais to convert to Christianity. And when you force people to convert, they come as they are. They come with their belief systems. And that's where the Catholic Church started embracing all these pagan tendencies. But if you are celebrating December 25 and celebrating Easter, where then do you come off telling me you're not Catholic? Because you are.
I'm sitting with the poem. Let's go back to the poem. There's something that the wind says to you, right? How dare you forget the African warrior queen? How dare you? And the wind says, how dare you? Because it backs it up with listing the achievements, the victories of the African warrior queen, and says to you, look at what she has done. How dare you forget when you see what she has done? Please speak to that, Mama Kati. So this is us again, Oprah. And now the more I'm sitting with you in conversation, the more I'm interacting with you, the more I'm able to detect bullshit. Again, the theme of the day is that's bullshit.
Yeah, somebody said that in the chat.
Detect
The more I'm
bullshit.
able to detect bullshit, because
I like that slogan, Tig. Detect bullshit.
detect bullshit. I'll be sitting there and someone is talking about, oh, I'm still Christian, but I believe in African spirituality. But this, I'm like, wait, stop it.
Detect bullshit.
The two cannot be together.
Yes.
They cannot. They cannot be together because everything Muslim, everything Christian goes against everything African spirituality. In fact, everything Muslim, everything Christian goes against Black liberation.
In spirituality, you are sacred as a woman because you are a procreator. In Christianity, you give birth in pain because it's a punishment.
Whoa.
Labor pains in pre-colonial Africa were a sign of jubilation. A life is coming. Labor pains now take us back to women being the originator of sin.
Imagine that.
Yeah, you were punished.
Wow.
Because of that, you will bear your children in pain.
Wow. I never saw that. Thanks for that.
And imagine what that does to the psyche of a woman. This is a holy moment where you're supposed to be giving good energy to this being that you're bringing to earth. But you have planted, if I'm a Catholic, in my head that I am bringing this through sin. The reason I'm doing this is because of sin. So I'm sitting there in a punishment mode, accepting punishment instead of being in my full being so that I can give good energy and make that being strong to come in.
Wow.
My husband called it when somebody talks, you get a revelation. No, we have not even talked about the fallen woman of religion. In Judaism, Christianity, and the Quran, the fallen woman of religion, that beguiler, that originator of sin, who saves them? Who rescues the fallen woman? The fallen woman is rescued through a man. It's Jesus that comes. It's Muhammad or Allah that comes to give you back your dignity. Outside of those men, you remain a beguiler and an originator of sin.
Whoa.
even in the show I was talking about, Mama Khanyisile, but not the show, even in their culture back then, if you were a woman whose honor had been taken away, the only way you could get it back is by being married by a man.
Wow.
The patriarchal nuances in religion have not been fully unpacked. We haven't detected the patriarchal bullshit in religion enough to make women realize that it's misogynistic, that it's patriarchal, that in fact no self-respecting woman should be embracing it.
Hey.
We have not detected that bullshit enough.
But my
Because
sister,
the fact that a man must salvage that woman, it's a kairos moment that struck me as you were speaking, Dugo. I didn't think of it before. So you downgrade this woman and you give them a man as the savior.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, sis, I was gonna say, but and you discussed this, but how can we get the woman back to believe in themselves as the mother of mankind? Because if you look at every religion, the guides, the protectors of these religions are women. In every church, mosque, whatever, the most people you're going to see is women. So how can we get women back to where they're supposed to be? Because this is basically one of the biggest challenges we face as humanity.
It's a slogan Ntigi will be afraid with, which was used during the apartheid struggle by Congress of South African Students, which united all students at high school. Not so much in primary, but I mean those who were in primary also could be united. So COSAS used the slogan, each one, teach one. At that time, we had no landline at home. It was not a common thing. Classy homes, bourgeois homes had landlines, but it was not typical. Didn't have cell phones. Bourgeois homes had TVs. It was not typical. So the only other way the liberation message would go was person to person, each one, teach one. So we can't turn the volume off on the importance of the African woman, on the position they held in society pre-colonially, on the feats that African women surmounted pre-colonially, on how African culture and religion and spirituality respected the African woman. We can't turn the volume down on how white women suffered as Christianity was sweeping through Europe, how they were forced converted also through violent means by this very religion that some of them espouse and die for today. So it's only through education, Oladele, and I think which is why there's such a pushback by religion itself. Why do you think spirituality is not on television, but religion is on television? I go to African countries, I will not name them. But do you know what's common with those countries, Ntsik? All of them are run by dictators. Do you know all these countries run by dictators in Africa? About 60% of what's on television is Christianity. It is an opium. There I agree with the white man, Karl Marx. Religion is an opium. In all the African countries I've been to, where I know a man has been in power for the last 30 years, they are dictators. When you switch on the national television, it's nothing but Jesus and Jesus and Jesus and Jesus and more Jesus and Jesus.
It's crazy.
So it is. It's so that's why religion is pushing back, because religion knows that the day the woman, for us in Africa, the African woman wakes up and they realize their worth, it is the end of neocolonialism. It is the end of neoliberalism in this continent. The day women stop asking men what is to be done, and instead they tell men, my spirit says, because it comes from the spirit.
Yeah.
The day that happens, we are going nowhere. When we are still looking for Solomon and his wisdom, and are not prepared to see the abuse of the pennies. When we are still looking to be saved in the name of a man, it's a vicious cycle. We just keep taking one step forward, two steps backward. One step, it's a vicious cycle of retardation. That's what we are caught in. And mediocrity.
It's interesting you say that, because again, it triggers, and we're going to go to the audience. Someone is saying this, and we can address it. But quickly, before you address this, Kenya is sending a police force to Haiti, right? So you know what the Kenyan president, because you're not going to name them, but I'm going to name them, because I'm in the business of shaming. I'm in the business of shaming exploiters. I'm in the business of shaming white boys who think they're superior to me, and reminding them that they're nothing, right? Because if you're standing in your arrogance, I'll use my arrogance to cut you down. I'm not in the business of grace. There'll be another black sister who's going to give you grace. That's not me. You can go talk to her. So, to support Kenya sending police to Haiti, the Kenyan government, through Ruto's wife, who's a very, very, very devout Christian, are sending a religious mission.
Seriously?
I'm not kidding. They're sending a religious mission.
I was listening to the interview. She's not incorrect. And he was being, you see, we don't have gender grammar. So allow me to sleep. Now I'm calling Ruto she. See, he was being interviewed by a South African Reddy Tabi. And he was even defending the relationship with America and saying Kenya and America are relating on equal basis. And I'm just like, nigga, no, you know, even what we are saying is bullshit, even as we are saying it. The day Kenya contradicts the foreign policy of America, America will invade Kenya from north to south like it's nothing.
Straight up.
Straight up. But also, why is Kenya not participated in solving DRC? Why are you so worried about Haiti? And I'm not, by the way, saying Haitian lives don't matter. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying charity starts at home. So why is Kenya not worried about DRC? Why is Kenya not worried about Somali? You have an influx of Somali people who are looking for peace and security, which they're not finding in Somalia.
Even Sudan, sis.
Even Sudan. But then again, because you started it and it's your country, the naming and shaming, I'll continue on that trail and tell you, in the 80s, when the whole of Southern Africa was engulfed in liberation wars, you had various African countries supporting that aspect. And Zambia, whom I have renamed the mother of all Africa, housed all Southern African liberation movement without fail. Ian Smith of Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, would actually go in through air raids and bomb Zambia for housing the two liberation movements of Rhodesia then. And I can tell you, at that time, we used to refer to Kenya as the America of Africa. I mean, Kenyan politicians have always been apolitical. Let's face it, it's not a secret.
There is.
They've always been apolitical. And Kenya's always gravitated towards America. That's why when you talk with an ordinary Kenyan and you try and talk about Russia or BRICS, they tell you, oh, but Russians are racist. And then I always hurry and ask them, have you ever met a Russian in your life? No. And I say, so how do you know if they're racist? Have you met a French, an American? Did you find them not racist? Yes, I did. So why do you think Russia is racist? It's because that's what your government or your state or your media tells you.
And this the poison of what Ruto and his wife are doing is that they're blurring. And those of you who think that church is different from politics, please awaken to this moment and stop the bullshit. Again, BS detector number one right there. The church and the government, the church and politics are one and the same thing.
They're in bed with each other.
That's why I made the statement to Baba Oladele right now that religion is a statutory philosophy. Meaning what? Big English. Religion is state disseminated, upheld, and propagated.
Wow.
Spirituality is not. That's why There is no single African country that has got holidays of African spirituality. First rain, last rains, first fruit. I mean, in KZN, because the cosmology of Amazulu has to do with reeds, they have the reed dance every year, which is a big thing of a female diet of fertility and first rains and fertility, not just of humans, but the soil. They have it every year. It is not a holiday. Because why? Because Amazulu are part of the artificial nation called South Africa. And South Africa is a Christian statutory state. The constitution says we are not. But I mean, hi.
The actions.
Christmas is a holiday. Easter is a holiday. Ascension Day is propagated. Sunday is a day of rest.
Yep. And it's interesting. I'm glad you say that, because in Kiubuntu, erroneously known as Kiswahili, and why do I say erroneously? Because in our culture, when we say ki, which is describing languages or culture, and then we say the word that follows, it means the language of that group of people. So Kiubuntu, which is erroneously known as Kiswahili, existed before the Swahili people. The Swahili people are descendants of Arabs who invaded East Africa. Ubuntu existed way before the Arab came to Africa, and the Arab comes and takes control and then takes our language of unity and names it after his descendants. And you all go along with it like it's normal.
I'm so glad you say that, because the clever blacks who don't want us to adopt a common African language say, oh, but Kiswahili is an Arab language.
Exactly.
So I'm glad you are giving us a new name and a context for it, Ki Ubuntu. And Ubuntu, we all know, we are Bantu, we know what it means. Okay. So now, Ndugu, what I want to know from you, see what I like about African culture and spirituality. Yes, we do have elders, but we also do not move from the premise that everybody else is a sponge sucking from this all-knowing person. So now I'm learning from you. So do you have where Ki Ubuntu is written? Can we find that language? How do we get on board with Ki Ubuntu?
So first of all, just to answer the immediate answer to that is to start learning the language. You can reach out to us. Mbongi ya Ubuntu is working very hard to get that done. And I'm forgetting his name, and you all can ask me next time when I get on. There's several people who have shown the evidence of this. As we talk, I'm gonna grab one of the books that did some work on this. I'm gonna get up and grab it in a minute. But there's also a South African gentleman. I'm forgetting his name. He's not South African. He's in South Africa. He's Nigerian, but he's done the research where he narrowed all African languages into 3 groups or 2 groups and showed the similarities. And in Kiubuntu, you can see the evidence of Bantu. So what Mbongi Ubuntu is going to do in collaboration with other organizations that have done is build a database that shows you, so that when you go and say Moja, you can see in all the Ubuntu languages how Moja is said and the similarity. So that when you say other words, you can see the similarity. And why are we calling it Kiubuntu after Ubuntu? Because we believe that the people of Nsi ya Ubuntu, right? The land of Ubuntu. Nsi being a Congolese, Bakongo word, and Ubuntu being a South African. This is in the efforts of uniting us, because the principle of Ubuntu exists everywhere in Africa. It might be called something different in your community, but it is Ubuntu. And therefore, we as civilized, y'all educated Africans like that word, so take it from me. We as civilized Africans, whose goal is to unite us because we understand our power lies in our unity, are saying, yes, it's a South African word, but because it means this, give me a second. Because it means this, hold on real quick.
That's a daughter.
That's one of my kids coming from school real quick. I'll finish this thought. Because it is a South African word and it exists everywhere, and we have to pick one word, right? We can't be just saying all this, so that we can have a meeting. Let's pick Ubuntu and let's go with it. Don't be that African who is so caught up in hierarchy and wanting to have a name and wanting to be the one who says my community owns this, that you're caught up in that argument instead of seeing the bigger goal, our unity for our liberation. So continue with that conversation real quick.
Wow. I think for me, that's the beauty of who we are as a people. Oladele, you started by asking. I like how the Spirit keeps prompting us so that we are not all over the place, to come back to the flow. You are the one who prompted us about how it feels to be African. And I think at this moment, I feel really proud to be African, because I just see so many things that unite us from Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar, more than any other continent. We have such a pull through of this tapestry, that's held together by our philosophy and principles, which are common to all of us. There are
Yes.
variations of how Zulu people think we came into being through the reed dance, or how the Kikuyu ones, the 12, I think, were they 12 or 10 daughters were put there, and
The
the
daughters,
sons,
nine daughters of Mumbi.
nine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so there could be those little variations, but the general philosophy and principles of this tapestry hold us all together under the concept of Ubuntu.
Do you know, we've been sitting here and I've been enjoying reclaiming our ways so much. I didn't even realize it's almost 2 hours until my child
Wow.
walked in. My child walked in and I'm like, I know what time my child gets off school.
Wow.
No
Wow.
way he's
Wow.
been here that long, but yes. So
Yeah.
this is the last tier. It's the platinum tier. This is $500 for 10 books. You get 10 signed copies of the book, all the perks included in all the other tiers, and an opportunity to have your name included in the book once it's printed and published and printed and sent to you. The other thing I'm going to say is, I'm drawing a blank.
Okay, let me fill it in. Guys, www.mamakanyishilelt.com. www.mamakanyishilelt.com. Basically, all the perks are in the website. Basically, everything. If you want to know more about Mama Khanyisile, our stories, videos, what she's been doing, our thought processes, just go to the website. Everything is on there. It's a work in progress. We're working on it, we're improving it, but every perk has been. And if you so feel like you can actually bless us with $20,000 tonight, you're more than welcome. The quicker we get the money together, the quicker we can publish the book and we can ship it out to people who want to share this knowledge.
Yeah.
We need to hear this knowledge, guys.
The thing that I forgot was, for all these tiers, everyone who supports the publishing of the book, on August 9th, we're going to have an exclusive, intimate sit down with Mama Khanyisile to talk all things African spirituality. This will be a situation where we are all in a Zoom setting where you can be seen on camera, you can come and ask questions, you can actually speak with her virtually. So yes, that's the thing that had quickly gone out of my mind. But let's continue with this question, this statement here, right? I had said we were going to talk about that. And like I said, the website, and we'll put it up and we'll pin it up on the chat. That's where you can find all the information. You'll find all the tiers there. Again, if you have any questions, myself, Oladele, Mama Khanyisile, and Ntsiki are all on LinkedIn. DM us if you have questions about the book. That's the easiest way. DM us if you have questions about the book and we'll guide you to the right destination. So about religion suppressing the divine feminine, Mama Khanyisile, Baba Credo Mutua, and I'm glad, I was so happy when I saw someone.
Sorry, bring that back. Sorry, my mistake.
You took
Bring
away
it back.
Credo Mutua.
I'm sorry. Where is it?
I was so happy when I saw someone mention Credo Mutua.
Yeah,
Because
I was too trigger happy. Sorry.
I remember one time I said to Mama Khanyisile, what do you think about Credo Mutua? And she says to me, and you know what? I'll let her say it because we're going to start with that. What do you think about Baba Credo Mutua? But before you say that, Mama Khanyisile, let me pull up the question. Okay, there.
Yeah.
Baba Credo Mutua said, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit was a way of omitting Father, Son, and Divine Mother. The Ankh, again, who's spiritual? The feminine. So who do you think I almost used the F word. Who do you think the Holy Spirit is? If the woman is the spiritual one. Anyway, the Ankh removed the loop and became a masculine. Mama Khanyisile, what do you think about Baba Credo Mutua, his life experience and our relationship with him? And this question, tafadhali.
Okay, we'll come to Credo Mutua. Let's first answer the viewer. Let's first correct. But Credo Mutua did not say father, son, and divine mother. In African spirituality, it's father, child, and divine mother. It is not father, son. But he is correct, and I'm glad. I think it's Gogo Tuli who's posing this. I'm glad, Gogo Tuli, that you are digging up on Credo Mutua, because that's the most uncelebrated wise man, probably a million times wiser than Solomon, that we ever have witnessed. I think as Africans, I dare say, in the last 2 centuries, maybe, I don't want to be too disrespectful and go beyond 2 centuries, he has told us things that at that time did not even make sense to us, but are playing out now. He's the one who warned us about the 1%, the Bilderberg group that meets annually. He didn't call it Bilderberg. He referred to them. The journalists, investigative journalists, have now come to know, oh, they are called the Bilderberg group. He has told us so much, but sadly, this is what I want to say, because I'll feel bad if I don't say this in this podcast. Even the country where he comes from, South Africa, did not treat him with the respect he deserves. When we had the emergence of what is called young lions in the 80s, the youth that was confronting the system and losing respect for elders, they attacked him in his home. The wife was raped. I take courage from him. I respect him so much for continuing to stand for a people that berated him so much in the name of the struggle at the time. Maybe these are the little nuances that has made the ANC fail in 30 years and be reduced to 40%, because I think in the process of war, there are stray bullets. I'll be the first one to say that as a former guerrilla, but also as a retired admiral. So non-statutory force and statutory force, there are stray bullets in every war. There are victims of war. But we did not go back as a liberation movement in South Africa to fix the rights. We didn't bring in UBULUNGISA to say this was wrong. We have not issued a national apology to Credo Mutua, and I think his spirit still lies grieving in the grave for what we have done to his family. For what? Just because he thought differently? Just because he didn't speak our liberation language? He was far advanced. He was past the little liberation, I would say that, and it's not in disrespect. He was past the mediocre liberation we thought we are seeking and achieving at the time, which we have realized in 30 years that it actually wasn't liberation. He was past that. He was on to bigger things. So no, I'm glad, Gogo Tuli, Kamako, Togoza Gogo, I am glad that you bring him up. Yes, the loop was removed, not to even make it masculine, but to even make it into a cross. But just the statement that is on the screen now, if you read it, all I would say is get an electronic copy, and I have it, Mama and Doku and Baba Oladele. So please, if it is required.
I've got the copy, actually. I've got a copy. I'm going to post it on the group chat. Yeah.
I also have
yeah, I've got it.
Of
I actually posted it on LinkedIn before. I'm going to do it again.
Okay, so the copy I want people to have is called the Egyptian Book of the Dead. That's the one you have.
That one I haven't got.
Because if you put the Egyptian Book of the Dead here and you put the Bible here, you'll understand the statement on the screen. You will see that the Bible is actually a, what do we call it, Mamanduku?
Plagiarize.
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. The Bible is a plagiarized book from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I know Christians, shame, and I feel for you because I was once there. I know you believe every word there is inspired of God. No, it's inspired of plagiarism. Go and read the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which predates the Bible by far.
Yeah.
And then tell me which book was taken from which one.
Mm. You know, as you're telling that story, and I'm glad you told it, again, transparency so that we can understand the real struggle. Because we talk about Credo, we give him credit, but we don't talk about the pain. And the pain, and now I'm talking to my people. And again, I'm still mad at my people. I'm still mad at you all. Like, I'm seeing you all here in community, but I'm mad at you all 63 of you. Because we do not have the battle stance we need. We need to be in a battle stance. I was going to start with something, but I have been derailed mentally to mention this. We had a session on Kumbukeni last week or the week before that with OBT's Michael Thompson and Sydney Nicholas. OBT is a space, our Black Truth. They're going by a different name now. It's Zulu. I forget the name. Sikona. Sikona is the name they're going by now. Sikona, yeah. And Mama
There's an
Khanyisile,
age there,
yes,
Sikhona.
Sikona. You can tell us about Sikona. Put a pin on that. You can tell us about Sikona in a minute. See how, like, I think I'm being derailed, but it's coming back to returning to our way. And Michael, who has experience from when he was 16 years old. 16 years old, that's how genius Michael is as far as learning how to build tech. 16 years old, he was working with AT&T already in an office building for them tech. And so he has been in these spaces with these Western entities and learned about them. And he said, based on his experience and based on his analysis and based on what's happening now, they intend to colonize us digitally in 24 to 36 months. He said that out of his mouth. And you would think that those who are connected to me, and I reach out to them and I say, it is time to take a battle stance and emergency, come together and figure out how we're going to counter this threat, my phone would be blowing up. You would think that, right? If we truly want liberation. My phone has not been blowing up. The people I have reached out to for us to come together so that we can figure out a way to counter this are not responding with the urgency that we need. So I'm saying,
They wouldn't.
the 63 here and the many out there, we are the reason we're not, because we're not moving with the urgency we need.
We're not prepared to do the work. We're not prepared to do the work. We're not prepared to do the work. We actually love to be in a creature comfort and just play along to get along. We don't want to do the work. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to be uncomfortable. And that's basically the challenge.
Oladele, what does digital, Michael went even a step further to explain. So if you're interested, this is a black space. Reach out to me. Again, you can DM me, you can DM Oladele. Oladele is on OBT. We can send you the links as black people to come to OBT so that we can sit there. It's a black space. You can post about racism. You can post about African history. You can post about everything about us and you will not be blocked. How about that? Your post will not be taken away. You can post about your ugali that you're cooking and selling and you will not be told that, oh, wait a minute, you cannot sell things on this platform.
Actually, I'm glad you are raising that, and Tsiki is on the podcast. I have a lot of respect for Tsiki. I must just put that disclaimer because she's the one who kept saying, no, but your voice must be out there. No, you need to do this. No. And she could see that, you know, this woman, I must just one day just tell her, hello, Mama, you are coming to the studio today.
Yeah.
But she was the first one to allude to me, and it has bothered me since. That, for instance, on YouTube, you can't use the word rape. And I mean, in colonialism, rape was a weapon. In slavery, rape was a weapon. In what's happening now to West Africans dying in the Mediterranean, a better life, rape is a weapon. In the war in Somalia, rape is a weapon. In the war in DRC, rape is a weapon.
Credo Muto's wife, Ngugi wa Thiong'o's wife.
Yes. So if we can't mention the word rape, we are being dispossessed of a certain legacy of our history, you know. Those people, I don't know them. You are introducing them to me because you sent me their document, but they are not far off. And I think it's because the 1% has realized that the space that we use in the digital tech has really put the Black voice back on. It has actually detracted all of us from CNN and BBC, who have
Yes.
the mainstream monopoly and are lying to us.
Yeah.
So I can switch
100%.
them off and listen to Moya. I can switch them off and listen to Imaging Alkebulan. I can switch them off and listen to Induku. So now, see, they were still plotting on how they are going to do this pushback, and I am sure that by now they have the strategy. So that person is not far off. So this freedom we are enjoying here, they are going to clamp down on it, because we all know we don't live in a free society.
And what does digital colonization mean? So first of all, and I, again, if you want the links to join the site, because this is what happens when you join the space. Not only are you in a space where you can be your blackity self, your Mwana Ubuntu self 100%, but also you start attending the regular meetings that he talks about the company, the struggles, and gets more into detail about this threat. Number one, Facebook, Amazon, Google, they're all trying to get access to Unsia Ubuntu Africa. They're all trying to sell us their internet. When they do sell us their internet and we buy it and we are dependent on it, they will be controlling our economics. That means our markets. They'll be able to shut them down or turn them off whenever they want to. They'll be controlling our healthcare. They'll be able to shut down our healthcare systems. They'll be controlling our travel. They'll be able to shut down our travel systems. They have cables going under our continent, our motherland, that are connecting them to us.
Nduku, as a former guerrilla and a retired admiral, let me tell you that in any war, communication is the central nerve.
Thank you.
Because if I can't call for backup when I'm under fire or whatever, then that's why the communication department is always the target. Now, tell me of any African country that uses a communication system in their military, which is African made and African controlled.
None.
South Africa can't go to war with Britain. They'll just shut down our communication system because the one we are using is theirs. If you go to Burkina Faso, you'll find that the one they use is French. Why do you think there's such a hatred of Burkina Faso, Chad, Niger, Senegal has joined, although they did it through the so-called democracy, through winning elections? Because those people are trying to switch off the West and switch on the East and say, okay, can we try a different system? I still don't support it. We need to be switching inward. But if we have not invested inwardly, we do need an external person, maybe just have a cut-off time for it and say for the next 10 years, you'll do this for us, Russia, for the next 15 years, while we get on our feet. But I mean, from Ghana 1957, we have been depending on Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, and where have they taken us?
I'm glad you mentioned Ghana, Mama Khanyisile, because Nkrumah says it in his book. Because he was dependent on Britain and the US, that's how they ended up spying on him. That's how they ended up doing the coup that took him out of presidency. Because, and you can read it in, and I'm now forgetting which specific book, he mentions that they bought listening equipments from the US, but the company that was supposedly making them was a CIA front. And each of those listening equipment had bugs. And that's how they were collecting intelligence on Ghana and on Nkrumah.
Because most of our militaries, former English speaking, use the Philips communication system. I mean, we know where Philips comes from. So the Nkrumah story is actually painful, and I didn't want to be the one who talks about it, and I'm sitting on Ghanaian soil. But I am very angry with Ghanaians, because the more you listen to the Nkrumah story, and I went to his museum actually, see, the CIA could have listened in and could have plotted the coup. If the average Ghanaian was behind Nkrumah, the coup would not have been supported. But Ghanaians themselves did not like Nkrumah. And when I try and interview various Ghanaians, they say, the actual overriding reason was that Nkrumah was looking more to Africa than Ghana. Like, Nkrumah was more an African than he was Ghanaian. Some bullshit thing that when you hear, your hair just stands on ends. He was more worried about Africa than Ghana. Like, is Ghana not part of Africa? Also, it's because Nkrumah understood that he couldn't have created an island of anything in Ghana when the sea called Africa is not on board, because they will just take him out, which is what happened. So I never thought I'll say that and say it on Ghanaian soil, but no, I'm very angry with Ghanaians about Nkrumah.
Do you, I'm gonna make you even more angry, but I think you actually, given you who you are and the fact that you actually do your research, I think you know this. The current Ghanaian government, and y'all can come for me. I mean, if my death is supposed to be because you're upset that I am awakening our people, go ahead, take it. Again, we believe I will come back again, and next time when I come back, I'll be even more aggressive and more abrasive and more truthful. So you take me out of this physical, I'll be back again. But on top of what you just said, the Ghanaian government is intentionally erasing him from their education system.
I know.
Did you know that?
I know.
And they're changing the narrative of him to take away that he actually was a positive impact, and they're putting negative stories about him.
Do you want to know something funny? Jomo Kenyatta wasn't much of a patriot. In fact, Jomo Kenyatta was a tribalist who divided Kenya for life. That's why Kenya sits with the tribal problem that it sits with, because it comes from the very first president, who was Jomo Kenyatta. I believe Dedan Kimathi was killed because they couldn't change his mind, and they had this puppet live and take power. But be that as it may, you still have Jomo Kenyatta as the first president. You have a picture of him, you have a statue of him. Nkrumah is not, I shouldn't be saying these things, but Nkrumah is not in the parliament here. His photo is not there, his statue is not there. This is the first African country I come to, and the name of the airport does not make sense. It's a man I don't know. It's still Jomo Kenyatta, sellout as he was. It's still Jomo Kenyatta International. I would have expected the airport here to be Kwame Nkrumah Airport. No, it's not.
We have got to look at ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. We are the reason we are still subjugated. Like when we sit down and talk about the nuances, yes, the white man is playing a part, but like Mama Khanyisile said, the white man can only play that part so far. He cannot win if he doesn't have people who look like us helping him.
If he doesn't have proxies amongst us.
And this is where I say goodbye grace, goodbye meeting people where they are. And this morning I did a quick video where I said, because this thing of grace came about, Mama Khanyisile, I don't know if you've been told this, but I am sure you have encountered this in different ways, where people in our community tell you, oh, but you have to meet people where they are. Stop being so aggressive.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you're so mean. Why can't you just be nice? Have grace. And I said to them, okay, all right, here, have grace. Let's say today your house is burning. Your family are all sleeping in the house. Are you going to go to your wife and say, honey, please get up? Oh, my children are sleeping. Let me give them time to sleep. I'll meet them where they are. They're sleeping. We can wait. The house is on fire. Is that how you're going to react? Or will you go smack your wife and get her up and pull them? Doesn't matter what you're hitting, and get them out of the house.
But I like your analogy. People are asking us to give people grace because Africans refuse to realize that our house is under fire. We refuse to realize that we are at war. We refuse to realize that our languages, we have over 2,000 registered. We should be having an equal number of that unregistered, because there are dialects which are not registered here. But our languages are the ones projected, that's the word I was looking for, to be extinct by 2050. The most dying languages in the world are the African languages. Our people don't want to realize that there is water gushing through the walls of our house called Africa. And in Zulu, when we say vimba manzi angene endlini, when we say stop the water from gushing into the house, it is not a gentle echo. It's not a gentle shout. it's an emergency. It's because we refuse to listen that we live under a state of emergency. We refuse to believe that there is no single African country that is free. We refuse to believe that the so-called post-colonial Africa is a bullshit concoction and it's a miseducation and misaligned statement. It does not exist. We refuse to believe so many things that are a reality. Maybe it's just easy to go with the lie because the lie does not want you to be active and do something.
Whew. All right, let's talk about Sikona as I share, and please pronounce
As
it.
we close.
Yes, as we close, let's talk about that. And I can share the link to your website as we close. This has been such a Mama Khanyisile, I am grateful for the day that we met. And if you think that we are doing you a favor, you have no idea on how much you're impacting us and how much you're helping us. So this relationship is 100% UBULUNGISA. It has been balanced. We are feeding you, you are feeding us. We are truly, truly, truly having a balanced relationship with each other. And I appreciate you for everything you've done for us. But this name, because Michael explained it, but Michael, he had a good explanation, but he's not grounded in the culture. So culturally, explain to us what this means.
To be grounded in the culture.
Sikona.
Oh, Sikona. It depends. Remember, Sikona is just a word in Nguni languages. That means we are present, we are here. So for you forming an organization or a movement of Africans, Alkebulan people, you can imbue your own philosophy to the word. But in Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, and Swati, Sikona means we are here. So you can philosophize it to say we are present. We've been reduced to so much dust. We are here to stamp our authority and say we are present. We've been reduced to nothingness and blotted out of history books, but we are here to say Sikona, we are present. Our achievements have been reduced to nothing. We are set to be colonized by our former colonizers, so civilized by our former colonizers, but we are here to say Sikona, we are present. I like it in Xhosa. Xhosa people will even say Sikho, we are here. So don't dare overlook us or look over our heads. Sikho, we are here.
And to show the importance and connection in language, you know what Kibuntu say that I am here? Niko. Niko hapa. Niko hapa. So Niko, Siko, Niko. Like those of you who do linguistics, you can look at the words and see the similarity and the influence. Sikona, Niko hapa. Now you tell me why
we say Nikona la when it's singular. I am here. Because some people say Ndikona apa. I am here. But if it's plural, Sikona apa. We are here.
Now you open your mouth as a Mwana Ubuntu and tell me that Kiubuntu is an Arabic language. And God help you, I hold my hands and not slap you in the face.
Yeah. You can say something, my sister. Let's run this up.
Yeah. I was saying good night. I'm ready for good night. Fantastic session.
Yes, South Africa is 2 hours ahead of where.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to going back to the session and actually going back and, you know, beautiful session. Thank you so much, Mam Khanyi. Thank you, Nduku. Thank you, Ole.
You're more than welcome, my sister.
Thank you for joining us, Ntsiki.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your community as well.
Thank you, Mama Khanyisile. You're looking beautiful.
We lost a great son in South Africa, so she is involved. So she's had a very busy day. I know I talked with her from morning, Ntsiki, so I think she really was respecting all of us to even make it. At a certain point, I didn't think she'll make it to the podcast, so she has multitasked a lot today. So Kamaku to your ancestors.
We appreciate you. Thank you very much, my sister. Thanks for coming on board.
Quickly, Oladele, Mama Khanyisile, Ntsiki, forgive me for doing this, and please have the awareness to realize that you can actually say no. But that to me is an entry and a guidance from the ancestors to honor this great man. You said he was a great man, a great son. So Nsiki, if you feel that you can speak about it, would you like to speak about it quickly before we close?
Well, I think most importantly, and I think that part of honoring African greatness is sessions like this. So it's actually quite a privilege for me, and I think there's definitely an alignment to us hosting Mama Khanyi today, because she is on the same level of elders as the great Dr. Zulu Matabo Zulu, who just passed on. And it's so interesting that we ended off this discussion with the language thing and the word go, which he would have broken down for us exactly what the relationship is. So in that moment, like I felt his spirit in the session, and also just what a great loss. A genius, truly an African genius, one of our greatest intellectuals. He was a gift from the ancestors, truly impacted us in so many different ways, and in his transcendence, the community of spiritual healers in South Africa is convening, which has been something so important that needed to happen. So for us to have lost Dr. Zulu, to bring us all together, is so important. Even now that we're having a dialogue across the seas with the diaspora as well, So the African gods are with us, and we walk with him on his journey, on his transcendence. And although we are devastated, we also are completely humbled and in awe at the greatness of spirit that we were allowed to walk with. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nsiki. May he have a peaceful transition, and may the ancestors welcome him as he joins them. Thank you. And I'm looking forward, because I know you'll do more honoring of him. So I'm looking forward to the sessions that you're going to do about him and learning more about him. Mama Khanyisile.
Definitely. There's actually some episodes on Moya there. Sorry to jump in there. There's about 4 to 6. If you just look up Dr. Zulu on the channel, on the live sessions and on the video sessions. Amazing work. Truly stuff that we need to be breathing in.
Yeah. There's no reason why any of you who are listening here and any of your family should ever ask, where can I get knowledge about our African spirituality? Where can I get knowledge about our African culture? Moya Nsiki just told you, every now and then I start calling you Moya. Nsiki just told you you can go to Moya. It's a YouTube channel, in case you don't know. It is Moya. You can go to Moya, enter Moya. And by the way, it's not the white woman who comes up when you enter Moya. Now enter Moya and then enter her name, Ntsiki, and it will be her. And that's the space you want to go to. And you will find
the whites are definitely hiding that channel. There's definitely shadow banning. So you do have to be deliberate about which Moya.
I was like, why does this white woman keep coming up? Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
no,
once you have entered Moya, please look for the episodes on Dr. Zulu. We won't say Zulu Matabo, you'll forget, it's too long, but Zulu, most people know. So look up Dr. Zulu. I don't know how to describe him, Tsigi. For me, I would describe him as the Pyramid of Giza. Because for the construction of the Pyramid of Giza, you needed mathematics, you needed physics, you needed geography, because you had to know where to put it. You needed spirituality, because it's a very spiritual architecture. You needed history. You needed to be multi-skilled and multi-talented. And that's what he was. If you I am gifted on the history, the culture, and the spirituality of our people. If you sat with him and you talked numerology, you are at home. You talk archaeology, we are at home. You talk linguistics, you are at home. For me, when I doubted if our ancestors really true, I mean, I am a product of Catholicism and being born again. So when the going gets tough, I'm like, ancestors really true. Didn't I maybe leave religion for what is false? Then you meet him and you talk to him and you realize, no, there's no amount of going to school can produce this. This is African spiritual. This is like someone that has come back
home.
from pre-colonial era. So yeah, for me, that's how I would describe him. And I'm sad that I won't be able to be at his funeral tomorrow. Because I'm in Ghana, but yeah, I think my spirit is there. For the podcast, I think maybe this should be the closure, actually. That appreciate and embrace people when they are still alive. Yeah. I didn't tell him all these things that I'm saying here. I interacted with him. There's a time when we in Cape Town together, me, him, and Tsigi invited. And yeah, I never told him how special he was because somehow I just thought he'll always be there. He was too special to be called back by our ancestors. So I think, yeah, that's how I want to end this podcast. Appreciate African wisdom when you still have it. It's not here forever. While I can now go and read his books, there are questions I would have wanted to ask him. I don't know why I didn't ask him when he was still alive. He would have explained them better than me reading the book. Some of the questions are not even in his books, but I know he would have had the answer. So
as I honor your request to end it there, I'll also say this because you have guided us and this came up before in another situation. Remember, he's not gone from us.
Yeah.
Right? So reach out and talk to him. He's not gone from us. It goes back to your book. We are spiritual people. He's still with us spiritually. Reach out and talk to him. Like wind came to you and told you to write about the African warrior women. Let the wind come to you and speak to him because he's still listening to you. So
thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
So much.
Thank you, Insiki. Mama Khanyisile, we love you. We love you, my sister, man.
Thank you.
I love you all too.
Yeah, thank you. Guys, we need to get this book out. We need $20,000. $20,000. Please buy, share, please. Every platform. You can see the website on there. Mama Khanyisile, LT.com. Just click on the link and let's share it. Let's share this, please. We'll see you soon. The next one should be the July the 5th, the next broadcast. So we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Asanteni.
Asante, siyabonga, Kamaku, Thokoza.
Odaba, no. Morini like Matunari. That's Yoruba.
Sounds so nice. You said it so quickly.
I know, right? Take your time.
Do I close it from my side?
No, hold on.
Yeah, go.
You're not ending the stream, Oladele.